Hey everyone, wherever you are, I hope you're having a wonderful week so far. We had the latest episode of the Inside Crypto Show, interviews and discussions with regular people like yourselves. Today we are joined by Oleg Fomenko, the co-founder of Sweatcoin and the Sweat Economy. Oleg is a serial entrepreneur who has launched a number of successful businesses, including a music subscription services Bloom.fm that grew to 1.2 million registered users in the UK. We have to do the usual disclaimer. Anything said by either Oleg or myself does not constitute financial advice. Please don't connect this with our respective organizations. Because it's just Oleg today, we got to talk a little bit about his background before we get into the crypto and the it pays to work stuff. Oleg, thank you very much for making time today. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you for having me here, Korean. It's a pleasure to be able to have this conversation. About myself, what can I say? I guess I always wanted to be an entrepreneur. I just didn't know that's what I wanted because I was born in the Soviet Union many moons ago. And to be honest, I could not have thought about being an entrepreneur because even the meaning of that word back then meant that you will end up in jail sooner or later, which wasn't really my plan. So that sort of wasn't my goal and the purpose. And it only really hit me and bit me when I was in the UK quite a lot years later. And I got my British passport and I realized that I had quite a lot of skills and definitely a lot of energy and desire to start my own thing. And that was the moment when I started Bloom FM that you already mentioned. So yeah, we built music streaming service. It was great fun, very difficult industry. And unfortunately in 2014, it perished in very unfortunate circumstances, geopolitics. And I went for a run with my now co-founder and we started talking, how come that I couldn't complete 5K, even though literally a couple of years before that, I was able to climb some of the highest mountains in the world. And one sort of thing after another. And we realized that the reason why all of us are not able to be as active as we want to be is because nature doesn't want you to. Nature did not build us to be active. Nature built us to survive, which basically means that we are designed to sit between meals, preserve those calories, and really not move unless there is some food on the horizon that we can catch and kill, or there is someone that is planning to make meal out of us, say, which was tiger. Otherwise, we just happily sit around the fire. Nature was so adamant that it was an important thing that it built into us this thing called present bias. And there's only one way to overcome it, is known to man at least, is instant gratification. So when we figured it out, when we can change the relationship for humans between physical activity and all of this sort of behavioral bugs that we have, can we make every step rewarding? And yes, we did turn it into a sweat coin concept. So every step counts, verifies, and if it is verified, then you basically earn. Back in 2015, we call them sweat coins. That is our centralized, hyperinflationary, and very kind of limited utility point system or token that operates within our original app called Sweatcoin. And that's Web2 app launched in 2016. And it continues operating right now all over the world with more than 120 million users, and it is profitable, which is an incredible achievement in health and fitness. But as name suggests, we originally already wanted to be on blockchain. But originally, we couldn't do it because there was only one blockchain called Bitcoin, and it was very difficult to build on it, and it was very slow. So we decided, oh, we're going to wait. And we met with Vitalik Buterin when he was working on Ethereum, and we realized that too early. And then every year we would do research into available technologies. And until last year, there was absolutely nothing that could get anywhere close to our scale. Because I mentioned that we got to 120 million users and more than 1,500 transactions per second at peak. So last year, all of a sudden, there was Solana, Algorand, Polygon, BNB, Avalanche, Near. So we looked at more than a dozen different projects because the world all of a sudden just bloomed with high throughput, exciting technologies. And we've aligned ourselves with Near. And literally 8 weeks ago, actually less, 7 weeks ago, we launched our own token called Sweat. and we launched our second app, which is basically your crypto wallet called Sweat Wallet. And it's been going really well ever since. I suppose, what else can I add? Oh, yes, I am married. I have two teenage kids who are, my oldest son is really starting to get into crypto and really wants to go to conferences and stuff. My daughter is a bit dubious about the whole thing. And I also have a dog called Bear. Somebody told me that you need to get a dog called Bull and then things will improve tremendously. So I'm mulling over that.
Oh, that is a wonderful intro. Let's start with the most recent thing you mentioned, which is Near. Why did you guys align yourself with Near? You mentioned throughput and stuff, and what was the motivation behind choosing Near over other blockchains?
Excellent question. It wasn't very clear to us at the very beginning of the journey because there were a lot of different options. We figured that we had to work out some kind of framework and the way to compare different projects. And what we've realized is that to us, three things matter. I'm not saying that this is universally and needs to apply to everybody thinking whom to build on, but for us, three things mattered. One was strategic direction and overall kind of direction where the project was going. And there are fundamentally two strategies that we have seen. One strategy is focused on TVL, so total value locked. And another strategy, and a lot less frequently encountered, was focusing on active users and transactions and really turning Web3 into a mass market proposition. And given that we are about making the world more physically active and that we already have more than 120 million users, the latter strategy was clearly aligning with our direction. So that was extremely important. And that actually, just that criteria already left only two blockchains kind of two for us to consider. The second option was the team and kind of chemistry and ability to work with them. And we realized that Ilya, Alex, Marik, and the team that they build is absolutely incredible. We really enjoy conversations. It's very honest, it's very straightforward. You get what you were promised to get. And there is very little of this frequently encountered in crypto bro kind of attitude of kind of a lot of superfluous hyperbolic adjectives and kind of accessories over substance. So we really liked that, sort of made it tick. And last, but definitely not least, is technology. So throughput is one big thing for us, but also what mattered to us is proof of stake or low energy consumption, because of course we as a project are focusing on making you burn calories as opposed to burning coal or whatever. Burning energy is definitely not something that we're focusing on. So Near's approach to delegate proof of stake and very low transaction fees and very high throughput that we've tested, and they've proven that it really does work. When we had our TGE on the 13th of September, when we created nearly 14 million token holders in one day, and it's more than 10x any other TGE that has ever been run on any chain. We're very happy that we've made that decision and that we're continuing to expand and support their ecosystem.
Very impressive. And it makes sense to choose Near as well. One of the things I wanted to ask as well was you made a choice of Near, and like you've got 120 million users. One of the things I found in the crypto space in the last 1 year to 2 years or so is there are a lot of Web2 users who, when they try to make that jump from Web2 to Web3, they just hit a wall. They're like, okay, this is too hard. It's too difficult. Like, how have your users told you and said, hey, this is good, this is easy, it's working, or it's not working? Like, how many issues have you had, if you've had any issues with people moving across to the Sweat wallet and the Sweat economy?
Very perceptive question, and clearly your power of observation is way better than a lot of other people in Web3. We did not do this as let's build it and let's figure out if it works or not. We, having a lot of users, we do have a luxury of being able to run studies, surveys, researches, you name it, we have it. And we, of course, have done quite deep dig into the space and into attitudes of our users, because we did have a concern that our users might just not be interested or even worried about crypto, because we do have a lot of females and not necessarily young females. So we're talking about 50 plus. And we were just wondering what is their attitude towards crypto. And we've learned that basically absolutely everyone, no matter what age, is very interested in engaging with crypto. However, there are two biggest issues that they need for us to address in order to make this possible. Issue one is user experience and communication. So the lingo, the hodling, the staking, all of this stuff that kind of we use on an ongoing basis is actually quite intimidating, because you can clearly hear that it is English, but you have just no idea what this all means. And the second thing is, a lot of people have tried wallet this or wallet that, and they just had horrible experience where they were given like 24 words that they cannot copy anywhere. They are told that they have to write it down on paper and put somewhere in a safe place, otherwise everything's gone. And they just kind of go, ooh, you know what, this is just too complicated, I'm just not ready for it. Basically, they want you to explain things simply, and they want you to give them really good user experience. And thankfully, this is the skills that we have acquired over the last 7 years, building Sweatcoin and getting it to 120 million users. And the other barrier that they wanted us to address is they all understand that you initially engage, there will be a learning curve, no matter how good the language is and how good UX is. It's a steep learning curve. And what they're constantly hearing about is that you need to first put money in, but every day you open a newspaper and you hear, oh, there was a hack of $600 million, there was a hack of $200 million, there was a hack. And they're kind of going, you know what, knowing my luck, that's probably going to be my money. So they're very concerned to basically part with a lot of money by their standards, because let's face it, there's nothing that you can really do, especially in DeFi space, with less than $500 to $1,000. And this is a lot of money for people to pay for education. And they basically said, if you can allow me to literally walk into crypto, I'm all yours. I'm definitely going to be there. And that's what we set out to do when we started building Sweat and Sweat Wallet. We are enabling people to generate their first their crypto holdings by physical activity. And we have designed our Sweat Wallet in the tradition of Sweatcoin, which is clear, easy, straightforward vocabulary. For example, our staking product is called Grow Jars. Everyone is familiar with a savings account. So you put your sweat and you grow it and you earn your interest. So there was no need to put staking left and center, which most of our users would know what it actually means.
Nice. You mentioned security. How is
Yes.
Sweatcoin, how you guys handling security? Of course, you don't need to mention any secrets, but what's your general security philosophy when it comes to Sweatcoin and Sweat?
Great question. I think let's separate the Sweat and Sweatcoin here, because there are slightly different approaches. I'll start with Sweatcoin. One of the most difficult things in Sweatcoin to secure was to ensure that when people shake the phone, or they put their phone on a dog, or they try to put the phone on a dishwasher, or they put it on a metronome, or they swing it on rope, there is a website called unfitbits.com that teaches people how to trick your wearables or your phone into believing that you're active while you're not. So we basically had to figure out all of that and then some. You probably even seen in China, as soon as WeChat started allowing people to publicize their step count, they created this cradle that was basically shaking the phone while you're sitting working. So we needed to weed all of that out, because of course we're giving you value for your physical activity. Unless you are active and you're sweating, as our brand suggests, then you shouldn't be rewarded. So we spent 7 years building a very sophisticated validation model that consists of many parts. There is an AI, ML at the back, analyzing patterns. There are some architectural things that sort of built into kind of whole solution, such as limiting the amount of steps that we will allow to convert per day. So that kind of, even if somebody was able to shake the phone in some funky fashion and for a short period we don't detect it, then maximum what they would be able to do is to earn very little on a daily basis. And as soon as they try to expand this and make multiple accounts do similar thing, that's the moment when our system can definitely detect that something is wrong and ban the whole thing. So it's an ongoing fight. And this is working amazingly well. We're investing a lot of resources, a lot of time, and a lot of money into this. On Sweat, the situation is quite different. Smart contracts, and here things are a little bit easier and simpler. So we already have 2 audits on our smart contracts that are both published. If somebody wants to dig into them. And of course, we know how to make mobile apps very secure. So we used same standards that we had on Sweatcoin. And that's why we're building our own mobile app, because we feel that there are some great wallets out there, but they don't necessarily have the best UX. And we believe that in order for us to bring next billion people into Web3 and making them more physically active, we cannot just have a secure app. It needs to be great UX and secure, which is what we're delivering with Sweat Wallet.
Nice. Well, like, I've got to bring this up. Most people
Sure.
listening to you right now on the podcast or watching the YouTube video will be like, okay, I've heard of you guys. How are you different from STEPN and GMT and all that sort of stuff? Is it move to earn realistic? What's the difference? Like, how are you different? Are you better? Is STEPN better? What do you think?
I'm slightly biased, so you can probably expect that I'm going to say that we're better. But I think that we're really grateful to Stepan and the team for basically raising awareness as quickly as they did. I think that Stepan's name just spread like wildfire, and now everyone understands move to earn. So that's a very positive thing, I believe. The negative thing is that I think they could have spent a bit more time thinking through the token economics and how they basically onboard users. Because having such a massive pay to play barrier at the end, at the entry, where you need to buy this NFT that is priced pretty high for most humans, with exception of a small share of crypto natives, is making addressable market rather small. And if you're going into move to earn, why would you want to have such a narrow addressable market is very strange to me. And this is, of course, the biggest difference. So we are a free app. You don't need to buy an NFT to start participating in our system. We've been going for 7 years already. And while we were in Web 2, the only reason why we were in Web 2 is because there was no Web 3 tech, there was no blockchain tech that could support us. But we've learned an awful lot that what matters is not charging in the entrance, but to generate sustainable revenue stream through the years. And we are focusing not on charging our users, but on charging other parties that are valuing physical activity and attention of physically active users. So brands that are sports, health, fitness, fashion, vanity, accessories, makeup, dog accessories. A lot of our users are dog owners. They really like using us because, unlike Facebook or Google, you are not advertising to people who claimed that they're physically active, but you know that our users are physically active. You even know how active they are, because the higher the price you put, the smaller the market that you're going to be addressing. But if you really want to go for athletes, you put a very high price, and you know that only extremely active users are going to be able to accumulate that balance. And then there are advertisers. Then there are other fees. So if we were able to become profitable in Web3, we see additional revenue streams that will make us kind of even more successful because we see higher revenue per user in Web3 already than we were able to generate in Web2. And rules of Web3 are not kind of bad news for some people who think that kind of Web3 is completely different. It just operates on completely different economic rules. No, you still need to generate revenues. And the more revenues you generate, the more successful the project is going to be. So we know that with our roadmap and with so many different revenue streams that we're experimenting with and building right now, we're definitely going to have a very successful long-term project.
I'm glad you brought up that you're going to buy an NFT with Stefan, because I didn't want to say it to sort of bias the listeners, but thank you for bringing that up. So I want to mention that as well. It's like, that's the huge difference, because I remember the last time I looked at a Stefan sneaker was $400-500 for like the basic Stefan sneaker, not to mention all these other rules that you have to follow. You guys are definitely far simpler. You mentioned tokenomics.
Exactly.
One of the things when I was looking up, because I remember you were on Reddit maybe end of last year or earlier this year, and I was like, okay, this is really cool. But I was reading up your new tokenomics, and one of the things I saw is that with Sweat, not Sweatcoin, Sweat will be much harder to produce as you increase your steps or your exercise activity, right? So
it goes up. Every single sweat is harder to mint than the previous one.
That's wonderful. That's one of the things people have always said with not just move to earn, but even GameFi. Like the tokenomics are not sustainable, but looking at what you guys have on your light paper, it is sustainable. Like, how did you come up with this? Like, why did you go down this route?
I think that the main reason is that we are focusing on our mission, which is not to enrich ourselves, but to make the world more physically active. And what we've discovered over the last 7 years is that if we are driving this mission, the amount of value that we create is such that even if we capture a small chunk of it, it is a lot of money. And it's very encouraging also, I think, and it's also very good for recruitment and for everything else, because we actually have a pretty cool kind of social objective. Making the world more physically active means that you are fitter, healthier, your mental health is better, you are more productive, and all of this means that you benefit, your family benefits, your healthcare provider benefits, your insurer benefits, your employer benefits, and your country benefits. Because ultimately, if you're physically active, you're going to live longer and they'll generate higher tax revenue out of you than otherwise. So making people more active is an incredible wealth creation for the world. And what we are doing is we are creating all of that wealth and capturing just a small percentage of it. And if you think about it this way, then what you are trying to get into is, what is Sweat? What is our token? And our token is actually the unit of physical activity value as it is perceived by the world. Because physical activity is non-zero value. We know that. But we don't know how valuable it is. And we can talk about it. We can use words, valuable. Doctors can say, oh, you need to move because you need to lose some weight, blah, blah, blah. But actually, if we had that measure of physical activity value, then a lot of interesting interactions could have been created. For example, your insurer can charge part of your either health insurance or your life insurance in Sweat, because they know that if you have it, then you're physically active and you're better risk. Your country can start charging you part of your taxes in Sweat, because they know that you're taking care of your health. You're putting lower pressure on the healthcare in the country. You're going to live longer. They're going to generate higher tax revenue out of you. So if you're starting to think about this token as a unit of physical activity value, then you start thinking, okay, how would I design it? How would I make sure that this is going for many years from now until kind of into the future? Of course, not like Sweatcoin, where 1,000 steps equal one Sweatcoin, because it's hyperinflationary. That just doesn't work. So how do you control supply? You make it tighter and tighter and tighter, but in a way, even in 100 years' time, you're still going to be able to earn some sweat. It's just going to take a lot more steps than today. And if the price, as it does with Bitcoin, I mean, think of it as coin halving. It just happens, halving happens every 4 years. It's a very disruptive event. And in our world, it happens in real time. Every next sweat just takes a fraction more steps. And in the last 7 weeks, we started with 1,000, and today it will take you 1,558.67 steps to mint one sweat. So it's ramping up. And that means that over time, the inflation of the monetary mass will approach zero. Add inactivity fee and burning, and all of a sudden, we are having a deflationary token, which we know is a recipe for sort of value generation over time. This is on supply side. And on demand side, as I mentioned to you, we have 9 different revenue streams. We're starting, so bootstrapping of the token economics is largely happening on the back of attention of physically active people. So it's advertising, it's brands paying us. Users also pay premium subscriptions. Increasingly, if you start looking into the future, the monetization of the actual physical activity is coming into the fore and going to become the sort of main revenue generation. And therefore, the value of the token over time is going to become more and more representative of the value that humanity puts into the unit of physical activity. And those revenue streams are data. For example, being a European company, we've never monetized data, we never shared data, we have never done anything with the data, but we know it's extremely valuable. Like when Spain went into lockdown, we saw that the country lost 85% of physical activity overnight. This data is not available anywhere else, especially at such a scale that we have. Right now, nobody can access this, just us. But in the future, as we decentralize and become DAO, we will pass this data into DAO, and you, as a user and as a token holder, will be able to make a decision that I will make my data public. And you will start monetizing it, and you will start earning on it, with DAO taking a percentage effectively as an enabling platform for this. So all of a sudden, this is purely physical activity. We also have some businesses that are already interested in using us as a platform. So swimming, cycling, or high intensity training apps that want to run in the future movement validators that will be processing other type of information of steps. And if it is genuine, they will be able to issue sweat. In order to be one of those oracles, one of those validators, they'll need to stake quite a lot of sweat. That is another significant demand driver. And there is a whole raft of things in between, such as trading activity, such as on-ramp that we already have, such as off-ramp, so usage of cards. And most excitingly, that a lot of our users are expecting is the NFT and NFT game. So we will have dynamic NFTs that will become representation of you in the platform in Sweat economy, that will be dependent on your physical activity, on your activity on the app, as well as your on-chain activity. You know, you'd be able to create your unique representation by walking early, walking late, running, walking, amounts, as well as being active on the app, making transactions, staking. And all of that is going to evolve your NFT into a unique that probably nobody else can have. And NFT game is an opportunity to have a sort of super casual game around your physical activity and the NFT that you have created to be able to battle with other people for sweat. So this is already in development and is going to come hopefully before Christmas into testing.
Ooh, nice. That's something exciting to look forward to. Oleg, one of the things I wanted to ask as well is, okay, so somebody here, they've heard about you, they know Sweatcoin, they now understand what is sweat, but they've not participated yet. Like, what should they go with Sweatcoin? Should they go with Sweat? What is the suggested route into your ecosystem in October 31st, 2022?
Happy Halloween. So the best route is, well, do your research, dig around, but if you do trust me, then open your App Store or Google Play and install Sweatcoin. In Sweatcoin, you will find a crypto banner that basically start converting steps into crypto. Click on that, and that will take you through creating your crypto wallet on Nearchain. And at the end of that journey, there will be a button, install Sweat Wallet, and you will install Sweat Wallet and it will link to your crypto account. So you'll have your Sweat coin that will track your steps, will verify them, and Sweat Wallet is where your sweat is going to be managed. First 5,000 steps of the day will generate sweat. Other steps will continue generating sweat coins. Other activities would also generate sweat coins. So this way we also have sort of safety and security that we're not sending people on sort of crazy errands. I don't know, if somebody decides to be rich from walking and decides to run a marathon out of the blue, no, that's not going to work. It's only first 5,000 steps. We don't want anyone to be hurt. We don't want anyone to move too much. Frankly, what we know about the world, most of the world is moving between 3,000 and 4,000 steps per day. So if we get everyone to 5, that's an amazing achievement in itself. And then we'll figure out how to keep motivating everyone to be more active.
I should have asked this in the beginning. Most entrepreneurs, and again, this might just be a negative perspective for me, are not very altruistic people. But you sound like someone who's, this thing is, it is altruistic, incentivizing people to walk and to exercise. You've listed all the benefits. Were you always this altruistic, or did this sort of come about as you matured, as you got older?
I think it's a wrong perception. I definitely want to make this business a success. But what I have come to realize is it is a lot more rewarding over long run for myself and for people that I like working with, is when you are not focusing on enriching yourself, but when you're focusing on creating wealth. And if you're not stupid on the path, you will generate quite a lot of wealth for yourself as well. And that's what we're trying to do, because it makes it a lot more balanced and it makes a lot more interesting, frankly, because creating wealth for other people and taking small percentage is a lot fairer, at least in my books, than going and trying to redivide the pie that already exists. I don't think that creates wealth. It creates wealth for you because it's a zero-sum game. Playing the game that is win-win for all parties is just a lot more rewarding. And to be honest, I am pretty confident that our business is doing a heck of a lot better just because our mission is to make the world more physically active. We are able to attract some of the best people in the world because this is genuinely our mission. And people, young people especially, they do want to make the world a better place. They're not doing just personal wealth. It's how much do you actually need to be happy and comfortable in life? I think a lot of people are mixing up needs with wants. And that is a very dangerous sort of place. That's when we end up having extremely high concentration of capital and wealth in just very few hands. And I don't know if that creates a stable society over long term. Very long-winded answer, but I'm not doing it just because I'm altruistic and I'm putting everything out there. I'm doing it because it allows me to create wealth for the world and take some of it for me and my family. And because it just, I don't know, it's a lot better to wake up in the morning with mission like that rather than just looking at your bank account and hoping that it goes up. Yeah, it's not the driver of my life.
Very good answer and very true as well. You mentioned DAO before, right? That's one of the things on the roadmap, and the roadmap again can be seen on the Sweat Economy site. One of the things I wanted to ask about the potential DAOs are great. They offer people agency when it comes to projects and protocols. One of the downsides with DAOs is that it does slow things down. And I feel, again, preparing for this podcast, I feel like you guys have moved at a pace, right? Pretty fast because you are,
Yeah.
and in crypto people hate to say this, but I think it's okay, centralized in a sense. If you do go to a DAO, how do you propose to handle sort of market issues and things that happen when DAOs are notoriously slow?
It is a very good question, and it definitely is a concern. There are two strands to this answer. One is DAOs don't necessarily have to be slow. They're definitely slower than centralized entities, but they don't have to be as slow or as paralyzed as some of them have gotten recently. And part of it is effectively innovation and more work and more DAOs being created. So the more time passes, the better we understand how to organize DAO. For example, I know a lot of people that participate in DAOs, and they're telling me, never make sure that you put quorum at more than 50%. It needs to be something dynamic because people can lose keys, and all of a sudden you just might not be able to ever get 50%, and therefore vote will never pass and the whole thing is dead. And we're like, okay, so a lot of this R&D, research and development, is happening right now. The second thing is we are definitely going to be doing it gradually. We are already in the process of kind of designing our governance, and we're going to be experimenting to find the right ways of running governance and voting. And we know very well that A/B tests, how to run A/B tests. And I am sure that we're not going to stumble into an answer from first go. But once we understand what governance structure is best, then we're going to double down on it and put more and more decisions through it. And if that functions, then we're going to be able to effectively kind of remove centralized structures and move everything into multi-sig that is going to be done by the community of token holders as opposed to with the community as we do it right now. So how long is going to be? I cannot tell you. I think that our forecast is the earliest is going to be a year and a half, possibly longer, and it very much will depend on our experiments and our work in governance and the feedback that we're going to receive from the community.
Nice. I mean, that's still 1.5, 2 years away is not a huge amount of time. So if somebody who's listening is interested in the DAO, that's cool. It'll come soon. They'll just have to wait. Oleg, I did promise you to leave you some time for lunch, so I don't want to take too much of
I
your
have
time.
6 more minutes.
You have six
but
more minutes, indeed. I just wanted to ask, is there anything else that we haven't talked about today? You've mentioned so much really awesome, interesting information. Is there anything else you want to say about Sweat or Sweatcoin before we end off today's show?
I think that I just want to wrap up and say that the more I spend time in Web3, the more I realize that there are a lot of examples of projects that are going through boom and bust. There is a very kind of strong spike, and there is a lot of sort of wealth created, typically for project creators or investors. And the community and retail investors are left to pick up pieces. And I am very frequently asked, how are you different? Why do we need to trust you? And I just wanted to take and address this head on. Look, first of all, there is not a single anon in our organization. All of us are visible, real names. And the other thing is that we've been running for 7 years, and we built a business with more than 100 million users and profitable business. Doing rug pulls or anything funny is really silly at our sort of stage of development. We genuinely believe that moving into crypto is creating an incredible amount of motivation and engagement in our users and will allow us to get to 1 billion users as a goal. That is a lot more valuable, even if we take tiny decimal percentage of the value that is going to create. That's going to be an amazing business. No funny business, rug pulls or whatever is even kind of entering into anyone's mind, because our ambition is way higher and way beyond that. And we think that we're on absolutely right path. Yeah, I just want to make sure that doubt or this concern that sometimes people have is addressed.
And I want to mention, like, people who are watching or listening, like, I had my doubts, but wow, doing your own research helps, but hearing it from the co-founders voice is just nice. So I appreciate you taking the time to mention that because it's very comforting. I have all of Sweatcoins and Sweat's socials. Oleg, are you on Twitter? Because I know you're on LinkedIn.
Yes.
Okay, then I will include.
Yes, it's Oleg_FEM. Yeah, find me there. Yeah, I'm pretty active. I'm not posting some sort of threads and teaching you how to live and what to eat or not to eat, but I respond to every tweet, especially if people have any issues or questions about the project. I'm always there.
Nice. Yep. Follow Oleg, follow Sweatcoin. Give it a try. Out here in Taiwan, I'm going to give it a try as well. I just need to find it on my app store. So looking forward to it. Oleg, thank you very much. Hopefully we can get you on in a year's time, right? As you get more closer to that sort of DAO line in the sand.
Yes.
And we can ask more about that and see what the progress is like.
It will be my absolute pleasure.
Nice. Perfect. And if you guys have any questions, contact me or you can just tweet at Oleg and then we will talk to you guys next time.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Korean.
Thank you too, Oleg.